always encouraged by the story of the Ethiopian eunuch who is in Acts chapter 8, if you want to turn there. I'll just read a few verses about him. It's a story of a man who was seeking God on his own. God was drawing him. He was reading the scriptures, but he didn't know. He was kind of confused. He didn't know where to go from there. He couldn't understand. If you start reading, we'll start reading from Acts 8, chapter 35. Acts chapter 8, verse 35. It says, so this is after the Ethiopian eunuch was reading, and then Philip was taken to him. God led Philip to him. Verse 34, it says that the eunuch answered Philip and said, "Please tell me, of whom does the prophet say this, of himself or of someone else?" So he was reading about Jesus in the Bible. Then Philip opened his mouth, and beginning from this scripture, he preached Jesus to him. As they went along the road, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, "Look, water. What prevents me from being baptized?" And Philip said, "If you believe with all your heart, you may." And he answered and said, "I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God." And he ordered the chariot to stop, and they both went down into the water, Philip as well as the eunuch, and he baptized him. When they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord snatched Philip away, and the eunuch no longer saw him, but went on his way rejoicing. So this man, God was drawing him, and he was reading the Bible, seeking the Lord, but he was reading about Jesus, but he didn't know. God had planted a seed in his heart there, saying, drawing him to himself, but he didn't know. And so God provided Philip for him to show him Jesus in the scripture. And then the Ethiopian, he was, after Philip explained to him about Jesus, he was eager, or the first moment he was eager, so eager to follow the Lord and this Jesus that God had planted in his heart, that he wanted to be baptized. It was of his own will. Philip didn't push it on him. He's like, "Okay, now you need to be baptized." The Ethiopian, he was eager to be baptized because he was drawn. He made a decision that day to follow the Lord, and so I think that's how it should be for each person. It's of our own will. Nobody's forcing us into it, but God draws us, and we want to follow the Lord with our whole heart. We want to live for Him, not for ourselves. We want to be done with our sin. We want to honor Him and please Him with our lives. And so I see how God drew me like that when I was younger. I got baptized pretty young, and there was some years later I was wondering, I wonder if I understood baptism enough. Should I get baptized again? I wonder if I understood it well enough at that moment for it to have real meaning. But then God gave me a peace in my heart, because I remembered specifically that it was of my own will that I wanted to get baptized and follow the Lord. My parents never suggested it to me, and so that gave me peace. Yeah, I don't need to be baptized again. I was happy that I could at least remember that I didn't want to sin. I remember sitting down with the pastor of the church and him explaining to me about baptism, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to follow Jesus, and so I think those are the main things. We don't have to understand all the in and outs of theology, but I've been encouraged that I've seen in Ryan these things, that he's wanted to take sin seriously, and he's wanted to follow Jesus, and he's been coming here pretty consistently for almost a year now, I think. And so I've been encouraged to see that in his life, and anybody that wants to follow the Lord like that and wants to live for Him, die to themselves, they're willing to go down into they're fit to go down into the water and come out, because that's what they're saying they want to do with their life. I want to go down myself and come up and live for Jesus. I want to be done with myself and live for the Lord. Like Jeremy said, though, it's not just a one-time thing. Each day is like this. So that's the challenge now for all of us, not just Ryan, but all of us. Every day, am I willing to go down and come up with Him and live for Him? It's a death and a resurrection. That's two parts to the Christian life, a death and a resurrection. It's not just saying no to myself, but saying yes to Him. Those are the two parts of the cross. And so, but then the word of great hope there is that the Ethiopian, he got up out of the water, and then it says he no longer saw Philip, but he went on his way rejoicing. So what a joyful life we have ahead of us. Those of us that have come up out of the water, that we can go on our way rejoicing, knowing that Jesus is with us now. We're living for Him. He's with us, and And so yeah, I've just been blessed to see that eagerness in Ryan, the eagerness of the Ethiopian that so many of us have had when we came to the Lord, the eagerness to follow the Lord and die to ourselves. And I'm excited to see what God will do in this young brother's life. And then along with celebrating Ryan's baptism today, we're also celebrating our brother Solomon, who's testifying of his commitment to our church today. We've often had the question, what good is church membership? What does that have to do with anything? Because the Bible doesn't really use the word membership anywhere, as far as I know. So we should make sure that we're practicing biblical principles. And so what I think of when I think of membership, I think of the Hebrews chapter 13, if you want to turn there. I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Because thinking about this in the right way helps to clear it up for me. Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 17. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they keep watch over your souls as those who will give an account. Let them do this with joy, not with grief, for this would be unprofitable to you. So the question is, if the leaders have a responsibility to give an account for souls, who do they give an account for? Is it anybody that comes inside the building, or they need to know who are these souls that they're supposed to be keeping watch of? And so one of the parts of church membership that I see in the Bible is the elders that God has placed in the church need to know who are they supposed to be keeping watch over. And so when a person says, I'm committing to be a member of this church, they're saying, I'm willingly choosing to submit to you leaders as elders of this church. And so I think that makes it pretty clear. There's between who's a visitor and who's not. It doesn't mean a visitor is somebody who's been coming for at least 6 months. No, it's somebody who's chosen that these elders of the church are the ones that I want to submit to. And so that helps clear up for me, even though the word membership is not in the Bible, the principle is there. And so we try to follow the word as well as we can, and the leaders of this church, we have a responsibility to know who's just visiting. We don't have a responsibility to rebuke the children of neighbors, but we rebuke our own children. We guide our own children. We correct our own children. But I would never give my neighbor's kid some advice on what they should do with their life. That's up to the neighbor. But if somebody who I know is my own child, Isaac and Juliana, we're going to be guiding them and correcting them in their lives. And so I think it's the same in the church. We have membership, and so we ask people to kind of testify to it here. And so I'll have Brother Solomon in a little bit come up, but so he'll speak of his testimony, but also for the church to know, the church also has a responsibility too. It's not just the elders, but the whole church has a responsibility. We've committed to each other to build each other up. We heard about that a little earlier. The church builds itself up. And so who is my priority to build up? A verse in Galatians 6 says, do good unto all men, but especially those of the household of God. So I feel that our priority our first priority is to build up those in our own household. And so we call this the church family, NCCF, our church family. And so I think that the second idea of, besides submission, is the idea of that we're committing to each other to build each other up. And when I think of laboring for the church, primarily I think of NCCF. I don't think of maybe some people are called to minister around the world and they're called to China or something. Some people have that. I think it's pretty rare that God will put that in a person, but I think for most of us it's labor to build up your church, seek for spiritual gifts, focus on the people that you do see. It's very easy to love the people that we never see because they've never offended us. But we can't be very effective in their lives like we can in the people whose lives that we do see. And so so I'm encouraged by the fact that God has given me and us a church family who has the same vision, is committed to build each other up. When I'm down, you guys lift me up. When you're down, hopefully, God willing, He can use me to lift you guys up. And I'm encouraged by Brother Solomon's desire to be here with us and be part of our church family. So, thank you.